Welcome to the Soulful Mind podcast. I'm Angel, and I'm passionate about all things that help us live this perfectly imperfect life with joy and passion. I'm here to share with you a holistic approach to living life. I'm focusing on physical health, spiritual wellness, mental health, relationships, and more. My goal is to take you on a journey of self-discovery. Pull up a seat, get comfortable, grab a notepad, and be prepared to learn how to improve this crazy thing we call life. Let's get started. Welcome to today's show. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for joining us. And to all of our listeners, you guys are really special. I really appreciate you here on our new podcast. It's something that's a labor of love, and I'd love to share it with as many people as possible. If you're new here, welcome. I'm glad to have you. Just take some time to kind of go through the different episodes and see what is important to you, what topics kind of stand out to you. And if you guys are comfortable, I'd love for you to leave a comment. That would really help me kind of rate on Apple, but also I really would like to hear what you have to say about the new podcast. So today we're welcoming Lilli Badcock. She's a transformational coach and spiritual purpose coach who basically helps people transcend beyond anxiety, fear, and frustration. They reconnect to their passion and ultimately deliver their true soul's purpose. So have you ever questioned what your life purpose is, or are you struggling for direction? Lilli's going to share a little bit of information about how we can handle that, how we can come out of that. So I'd like to welcome her now. Welcome, Lilli. How are you?
Yes, really good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's so great to be here. So tell me a little bit about your spiritual awakening. It sounds like that's kind of how things transformed for you.
Literally earlier today, I was writing about my podcast and I was explaining about, who I was. And I actually referred to it as a spiritual reawakening because I've always been spiritual. I was raised in a Christian household. So there were always conversations around faith and belief and having something bigger than us and all of that. But then around 2012, I think it was after I'd had my second child, I just suffered a real crisis of confidence and self. I lost my voice, and I'm a singer, and my voice has always been the thing I could do, and so when I wasn't very good at things at school, I wasn't super academic, and I loved dancing, but I was never never anything special. And yet, and even with my voice, probably nothing special, but there was some passion there that just couldn't be denied. And so, my voice was always the thing that I felt confident in. And actually, without realizing, I'd attached all of my self-worth to my voice. So when I lost my voice, I lost myself completely. And then I really questioned, what's the point of I honestly didn't know what the point of life was if I couldn't sing. I was like, I'm no good to anyone. And even though I was a mother, I was a new mum. I had 2 young babies under the age of, one was only 1 and one was just born, so they were super little. And even so, I felt like I had no purpose there. My husband was the one, raising the children, if you like, while I was working. And so I didn't feel like I had my place anywhere anymore. And I really lost faith completely. And so that sort of, chronologically now, I can't really remember the order of things happening, but I know in that space of time, I had 2 babies very close together. I was the person saying, everyone was going, oh, it's going to change your life. And I was like, it won't change mine. It's just going to be, I'm just going to crack on. My life is my own and blah, blah, blah. And obviously it did change my life hugely. Someone that I'd become acquainted with quite recently, then passed from cancer. And at the same time, one of my very best friends got diagnosed with cancer. And so I just was faced with all of these questions, and all the things I'd grown up being told just didn't seem to fit. I couldn't make any of that fit, and I couldn't find comfort in what I'd been raised to believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went on a massive journey, and it sounds very cliche, but I did. And I really did hit rock bottom, and it was the worst feeling, feeling like I didn't have any faith was the worst thing in the world. And then, so I knew I wanted faith back. I just didn't know in what. I knew that what I'd been told didn't fit anymore. So I went on a bit of a journey, and I, was kind of dipping my toe in all of the buckets to try and find something that fitted. And then just I say by chance, obviously not by chance, given what I believe now, I know that it was all for a purpose all of the time. And I was actually never alone, even though I felt it.
Mm-hmm.
And and sort of in a sequence of events, I began to rebuild my faith. And I actually started to rebuild my own version of faith. And it wasn't rooted in any one religion in the end. It was just my own sort of spiritual beliefs. And I just realized that I could take what felt good and leave what didn't feel good. And that was how I chose to move forward. And then in 2018, I'd been having a particular struggle, and I had journaled this particular day for hours and hours, which is unusual for me. I normally will journal for about half an hour to an hour, and this was hours. And straight afterwards, I got into the shower because I just felt like I needed to have a shower. And
Yeah.
I received a very clear message while I was taking that shower, and it said, "You are here for the people who are waking up to purpose, and you have walked the path ahead of them. And so you're supposed to let them know that they're not losing their mind, they're not going mad. Like, what they believe and what they see inside of them is real, and you are the proof that it's real, and you're going to help these people align with who they're truly supposed to be." And because I'm sassy,
Wow.
I know it was so powerful. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
I'm just having a shower over here. I think I can't remember what I had journaled about that day, but I know I would have been asking questions about, why have I been challenged in this way? Why am I experiencing this thing? And I know it would have been something like that. And so, because I'm quite sassy, I sort of questioned it straight away. And I was like, well, if that's true, then why have I been so anxious? Why have I built this entire kind of business around helping people with anxiety? If that's what I'm meant to do, I couldn't see the correlation at all. And the response came back, well, duh, like, that's how people feel when they're out of alignment. Like, you've just
Right.
experienced exactly how they feel when they've lost who they are, when they think they don't matter. So you had to experience that to understand it so that you could help these people through it. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I came back with, so then why can I sing? Like, why was I given a voice? If I'm not meant to do anything with that, what's the point of it? And and again, it was like, well, duh, that's how you speak to the humans. Like, you're not going to go around banging a bell saying, I can help you wake up to purpose, because the people that need your message aren't going to align with that. They just wouldn't hear that. They would just
Mm-hmm.
write you off as being crazy or something. That the people I'm here for are not typically woo-woo and spiritual. They are what I would class just, they would class regular, normal people, like, not particularly into anything in particular. They might have some religion in their background, but essentially they're just living their life. They don't do anything out of the ordinary. So I was given a gift that would speak to the people that needed me, and my voice was that gift. And it was basically like, every time you sing, you're getting the attention of the people who need you. And whether you're helping them through you singing, or you helping them to sing, or teaching them to sing, or, however it looks, that's how you talk to the humans, was basically the answer I got.
Wow.
So
Wow,
yeah,
that's intense.
it was some shower. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good shower.
It was a great shower. And the funny thing was, I kind of said, in amongst all of that, at some point, this message came through, and it said, oh, by the way, you're intuitive as well. You can intuitively guide people to their purpose. And I literally said out loud, well, it's not like I'm going to get on social media and start telling people I'm intuitive. And I heard the voice say, that's exactly what you're going to do. Like, exactly what you're going to do. Like, who do you think you are, saying you're not going to do it? Why do you think you're down there? Why do you think you even exist? Like, get over yourself. Go and tell the people what you can do. And it just opened up such a door. And I'll be honest, like, I do intuitive readings now, and I'm still amazed when it works. Because my human still doesn't get it. I know on a deep
Right.
level that I can do it, and I know it's a gift, and I literally 100% success rate. So I know it works, and I know I can do it. But my human is still like, nah, like that's too weird. We don't do stuff like that, you know?
Right. That's amazing. So now when you're intuiting, helping people, how does that come to you?
So this is the funny thing. And I think this is why I pushed against it for so long, because I thought, I don't see images and I don't hear voices apart from that message I got that day, which was clear as day. Even then, it didn't sound like another voice. It was just my inner voice. You know, the voice that it's the same voice I use when I'm running through my shopping list in my head. You know, it was that voice. So
Right.
I was like, I think this is why I wasn't able to trust it for so long, because there was nothing tangible. But all I can explain it is when I speak to people or when they're speaking to me, I get what I call hits, just this overwhelming urge to say things to them or to point them in a direction. And the funny thing was, it was actually happening in my singing lessons that I was giving, where I would be intuitively guided to recommend a song to somebody or point them in the direction of a song. And it started becoming a bit of a joke, because I was always like, I don't know why this is helpful, but I can absolutely guide you to the song you should be singing. And whether it was relevant to what their voice needed, or whether it was, in fact, it often wasn't that. It was more that it would spark a memory in them that they really needed to heal, or that they really needed to come back to, or it would allow them to express an emotion that otherwise wasn't being expressed. And it was this, I only realized literally about 3 weeks ago that this is my version of what other people would have as clairvoyance or medium qualities. Some people are psychic, some people can speak to the dead, and I can communicate through music. It's the only way I can explain it. And I realized that I'm very much guided to sing songs when I need to sing them. And I'm even now just grasping the power of what I'm able to do and how I'm able to guide people. So yeah, it really just feels like this overwhelming urge to jump in and go, oh, this is the thing and that's the thing. And the funny thing is, like, these intuitive readings are with people I've never met. They're with people I don't know. I actually find it harder if I do know the person, because then all of my kind of human opinions get in the way. So it's much better when I don't know the person at all. But often I would just feel guided to say something to them, or to sort of take them in a direction. And all 100% of the time, they're like, oh my God, that's it. Or they'll just have a realization, because it's my belief that nobody's searching for purpose. We're all living our purpose, but we often don't realize that's what we're doing. And it's my job just to clear the fog, and just to say, look, that thing that you're doing, that's it. It does get to be that simple. And this is a tweak you can make, or another way that you can see the situation.
Wow. That's interesting. How that just kind of came to you, and how you've turned that into a passion, not only with your music, but also with helping people on a different level from your music. So I assume that your voice came back at some point.
It did. I would say it never came back the way it was before.
Wow.
I still feel impaired in certain ways. It's been a real journey with my voice. I'd say it's pretty good now. But I don't know if it's better, or if I've just come to an acceptance of what it is that I've got. I think I've definitely come to an understanding of where I fit in the world. And actually, it's not just okay, it's actually imperative that I am imperfect, because so many people, when it comes to singing, what holds them back is the fear that they can't do it right, or that they can't do it well enough. And I think it's absolutely spot on that sometimes my voice will squeak. I even shared a video yesterday that I recorded last year at a performance night I did, and it was actually going really well. And then in the middle, out of nowhere, this kind of Mariah Carey whistle note came out, which would have been impressive if it hadn't been a complete accident and was completely out of tune. It definitely wasn't supposed to happen. And in the video, I just kind of point at myself and then I laugh. And it's actually really powerful, because for so long, every time my voice let me down, I would laugh on the front, but I would die inside. Like, I would literally die. And I used to play recordings to my choir. I've had my choir for 15 years, and I would play recordings to them of harmonies I'd recorded. And quite often my voice was hoarse, or it would cut out completely, or it just wouldn't do what I wanted it to do. And I would laugh, so they would laugh. And then I'd go home and just cry and be like, my voice is broken. I'm never going to get it back. And,
Wow.
and because I had the belief that I was meant to do something vocally, it felt like I'd lost everything. It felt like I'd messed it up somehow. Like, that was your thing. That was your one thing you were good at. And now you've messed it up. And that was the narrative that I was running with. And of course, now I don't believe that at all. Now I believe that you can't, what's meant for you cannot pass you by. There's absolutely no way we can mess up. There's just no possible way. And so if you're taken off of a path, even if you thought that path was 100% yours, if something took you off that path, it was 100% meant to happen, and you absolutely will find your way through. And that's what I help other people to do now.
That's amazing. So you talked a little bit earlier about having anxiety and how that affected you. Was that related to your singing? Is that when it started?
See, I always say I don't know whether I lost my voice because I had anxiety, or if I got anxiety because I lost my voice, because it all happened at once. I actually, if I'm going to be spiritual about it, I just believe that we're all here for a purpose. There's a very important reason why anyone listening to this right now is alive today. There's a very important reason why you're here. And I just think that for a while, we're sort of left to our own devices in the hope that we'll find our way. And if it looks like we're not going to do that, I think we get hit where it hurts. And I think we get tested in a way that's we have no option but to shut up and pay attention. And it's happened to me in two ways. Losing my voice was one, struggling with money was another. I believe that we're actually tested in three main areas. It's finances, health, and relationships, because those are the things that as humans, we kind of value above and beyond everything else. And I think it's true to say that we are all tested in at least one of those areas, and in some cases, multiple areas. And you are continuously tested. The lessons come back around and around, and they might look a little different, but at the root, they're the same. And until you get the lesson, you get it again. You get the same experience again and again. So that's my answer to that. It's really hard to know whether I got anxious because I lost my voice, or whether I lost my voice because I got anxious. But I think my spiritual answer is my voice was taken away to make me pay attention. I needed to wake up to what I was actually supposed to do, because I wasn't quite on my path. I was actually doing a lot of the right things, but I had no awareness.
Wow, that's amazing. So part of what you do now is teach other people how to handle their anxiety. How do you do that?
Right. So, and I struggled with this for years, because I was like, I could recognize that I wasn't a doctor. I could recognize that I had no training in anxiety or mental health. Yeah. So how I help people in that way, like I say, I was struggling very much with the fact that I'm not, like I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional. I didn't go to university or college to learn about these things. So for a long time, even though I felt like I could help, I didn't step forward in that way, because I just thought, it's irresponsible to do that. You don't have the things that are required to help people in that way. And
The
then
formal education.
Exactly, yeah, the formal education. And because there's so many layers to mental health, my experience is one, it's like a drop in an ocean. And so, sure, I can talk about my experiences. And that's sort of why I launched my podcast, because I thought that way I can just speak my truth. I can tell my story. I can speak to people who did go to college and who are doctors, and I can bring them on, but without putting anybody in jeopardy. But through the process of doing that, I have come to realize that what I actually do is alleviate people's mental health issues through singing. So the people that come to my choir, for those couple of hours that they're in the choir, they're experiencing joy. They're tapping into something that they're passionate about. They're learning that they don't have to be perfect. They're learning that it's okay to be imperfect. And also, they are facing their fears head on when it comes to performing and singing. they are learning that the stories they've been telling themselves aren't necessarily true, and they're finding that they can overcome those confidence issues, and then that filters to other areas of their life. And so I learned that actually, while I was beating myself up for not training in whatever I thought I should have trained in, I was being myself all the way through, and it was always enough. Um, and that's really hit home this year. Even I've dropped into much deeper understanding of that since we went into lockdown,
Mm-hmm.
when the choir had to shut down, and I'd really underestimated the power of being in that room, not just for the people in the choir, but for myself as well. I had a huge mental health bomb a couple of months ago where I was just on the floor. I just couldn't cope. You know,
Mm-hmm.
all of my anxiety came back. It was mixed with grief because I lost my friend right at the start of lockdown as well. And then I lost my
Wow.
choir, and I explained earlier that so much of my identity was caught up in that choir. So not suddenly I wasn't that person anymore. And again, I
Right.
found that I was just bobbing around going, well, who am I then? What do I do? If I can't go and be that person every week, then who am I and what do I do? Thankfully, because of the years of self-development that I've done and all of the people that I've interviewed on my show, I was actually able to come through those feelings very swiftly. And even in the time I was experiencing them, I could recognize that they weren't truth, as well as honoring that that was how I felt at that time.
Yeah. Now, does someone have to be a singer to kind of, I mean, is that something that you have to be able to do to work your way through this anxiety?
No, no. You have to want to do it though. I've always said I can teach anyone to sing except for someone who just doesn't care to learn. If somebody doesn't enjoy singing and just doesn't care about learning it, then I'm not the person for them. But in my experience, the people that come to me, I do get singers sometimes, but more often it's people who always wanted to do it and always thought they couldn't because they were told that they were too, they were told they sang out of tune, or they were told that they weren't good enough, whether that was themselves telling them that or a family member or someone at school or whatever. It's often people that maybe did it as a kid and then didn't pursue it, had babies and kind of forgot about that part of them. The thing they all have in common is they love to do it, and behind a closed door when no one else is listening, and when they don't care if they're good or bad or whatever, the joy it brings them overrides everything else. And they're the people that get the most out of working with me, I think.
I'm a horrible singer, I have to admit. And I always wanted my kids to be able to sing. That was the pressure that I put on them. Not pressure, just one of the things that I thought would be neat. And
Yeah,
not either, all three of them can't sing. So
yeah,
it's, I mean, we can all sing, like you said, but
yeah.
we don't have those beautiful voices that just come naturally.
But you know
you
what?
know?
I didn't have that. Not really. I had all of the confidence of an amazing singer and not very much of the ability in the beginning. But it just brought me so much joy. And luckily for me, I never had anyone tell me that I shouldn't do it. It just never, my parents never said you shouldn't do that or you're not good enough or nothing. They just always championed me and was like, if that's what you love to do, then that's what you love to do. And so
Mhm.
I was living in a bubble for so long. Like, I think that's why it hit me so hard when that bubble burst. I was like, well, I was in my 20s. Like, I'd lived a good chunk of my life in this beautiful bubble of feeling like I could do anything. I'm just believing that people lived their dream lives and nothing ever got in the way of that. That was my core belief for a very huge part of my life. And then
Yeah.
it was when I was faced with the mortality of a friend, one friend that died and another that got diagnosed. And I started to see for myself that, oh my God, their whole life just got changed. And it was like they didn't see it coming. They were blindsided. And that floored me because I don't think obviously that was happening, but I'd not been aligned to that at all. I'd not seen that or experienced that in my life at all.
Yeah, that can be devastating.
Mm,
And I think that, in your 20s, you have, I mean, you have such a bright outlook typically on life,
yeah.
and to be faced with death or with sickness, it just it changes you. Like you said, it changed who you were because
Yeah,
you had to live through those things.
absolutely. And actually, another huge thing happened to me, and now I can look back and go, oh my God, it was so intrinsically linked to me and my singing that I can absolutely see how this all played out. And without going into all the detail and boring you for another 3 hours, it was basically, a friend that was very, very dear to me and very trusted. We just had this huge falling out, this huge breakup that just resulted in me losing so many people that I thought were my friends, and really just
Wow.
not even understanding why that happened for such a long time, and for a very long time not being willing to accept my part in that situation. For a long time I
Mhm.
was just a victim, like, oh, that happened to me. And you know what? That feels like a safety thing when we do that, because we're saying it wasn't my fault, it was nothing I could do. But actually, it doesn't keep us safe. It gives us the belief that at any point we can be attacked and we're not safe. If we can't take responsibility for our part in something when it goes wrong, whether it be a relationship or anything else, the minute that we say it happened to me and I had no control over it, we've given all our power away, and we are telling ourselves that that could happen at any point, and that again, something could swoop in and take away something that was great. So
Hmm.
it was an enormous learning curve for me. And for the longest time, I it's funny because that traumatic thing happened, but I didn't see it as traumatic. So I was still living my life and actually beating myself up for not having had a harder life. I was interviewing people on my podcast, and I was seeing, reading books and seeing other people's stories and going, oh my God, some people have had a real tough life. And I started to feel bad that I hadn't. And then it was only through my own work, I started to work with energy healers and, people like that, where it kind of got shown to me that no, that was trauma for you. It might not seem traumatic when you compare it to somebody being abused as a child, for example,
Hmm.
which is
Right.
kind of what I was doing. I was just going, well, it's nothing compared to that. But trauma is trauma. If it traumatizes you in the moment, then you've been traumatized, and it doesn't matter what it compares to. And I explained I was in this bubble. So to me, that was hugely traumatic and so not expected. And yeah, that was an enormous catalyst for change and for growth and for falling apart and coming back together and all of the things. But yeah, I mean, to come back to what you said, no, it doesn't matter how good somebody is as a singer. They just have to desire to learn. And actually, the thing you said about, oh, I'm a horrible singer, I hear that so many times. So many people go, oh, I sound like a bag of strangled cats. And I'm like, well, do you know what? I bet you don't. I bet you don't. And everybody has some level of ability. The only true people that can't sing are people that can't vocalize to speak. If you can use your voice to speak, you can absolutely use it to sing. And I'm not saying we can all be Mariah Carey or Beyonce, but there is always growth. And that's the life lesson. This is what I love about singing. Every single lesson you get in singing is a parallel to life as well. And you're never done. It's never what you see in the mirror is not the finished product. It's a culmination of what you believe to be true right now. Truly, if you want to sing, you absolutely can, and I can teach you, and so can 5 million other people. That it's literally balance. It's just some people are born with this ability to do it, and other people have to learn. But it's like anything else. I'm not particularly good at tennis, but if I cared enough to learn, I bet someone could teach me.
Right. Yeah. Some people are born with unique abilities, and other people have to work hard. But you're right. It doesn't mean that they can't get there,
Yeah.
that they can't still be the best. It just means that it's, more work than maybe those people that are naturally gifted with it.
Right. And really the point of my work though is that if singing is joyful for you, if singing brings you any amount of joy, even if you've buried it way deep down, if there's any part of you secretly that goes, oh yeah, I love to bust out a tune in the shower or in the car, or if you watch people on stage and go, oh my God, I would die to be able to do that, then to me, that's your soul showing you that that's available to you. And it's not about learning to sing to then be perfect and to become the next Beyonce or whoever. It's I just think we are all given the gifts to arm us with what we need for life. And if you are drawn to singing, it has the ability to raise your vibration, to help you build confidence, to help you overcome stress and anxiety, to help you move through emotions and to express emotions that you otherwise might not be able to express. You know, there's so much we can say through singing that we might not be able to say otherwise. And when you look at it like that, it really doesn't matter if somebody is singing in tune or not. And they feel it matters. And that's a confidence thing. And I can quickly teach somebody to sing in tune. That's not even a thing, right? It's just a matter of balance. If you're singing out of tune, something just needs to be tweaked and balanced up, and that's it. Like, you know, when people come to me and go, oh, I'm here because I want to learn to sing, I'm like, that's not why you're here. Like, that is so, I could nail that in 5 minutes. There's a deeper reason. There's a way bigger reason why you're here. But sure, let's teach you to sing in tune because that's easy. That's the easy bit, you know?
Yeah. We just had a guest on that talked about music or sound and how sound can really transform you mentally and physically. Do you feel the same way?
Oh my God. I mean, I could talk for another half an hour or 3 days about that. It's, you know, and again, I don't think this happens for everybody. I think we are all moved in our own ways. And there are certainly people I know that are just like, meh, music, whatever. But if music speaks to you, you know it, right? You hear a song, it gives you goosebumps, or it can move you to tears, or, you know, there are songs, I have them all in a playlist that instantly make me feel amazing when I hear them. And it doesn't matter what's going on. If I play that song or that music, it's going to transform how I feel in that moment. And of course, it's not going to change a problem. If I've got a big problem, like putting on a song isn't suddenly going to mean that I don't have that issue. But raising your vibration sometimes will arm you with the confidence to see another way through the problem. You know, if you're feeling too overwhelmed by something that's worrying you or frightening you, you will start to believe the stories you're telling yourself that you can't find a way through. If you can put on a piece of music and feel better just for that moment, just for that couple of minutes that it's on, it can shift your entire perception of what you're dealing with. And that's when you'll get these downloads, because we are all being supported 100% of the time. And you might just get a little flicker of an idea like, oh, I just make that phone call, or I should just, you know, write that blog post, or whatever it may be. And learning to listen to those nudges and take action is really the catalyst for huge transformation. And so for sure, music has the power to do that. And you know, singing specifically. I mean, there are so many studies now that back up the fact that singing will help you feel less anxious because it releases natural, you know, happy hormones, if you like. It will physically do that for you. But I think it goes deeper than that as well. I feel like we're drawn to music for a purpose. And I think it's a natural gift we've been given to realign our frequency and to realign our energy. It's just, if somebody loves music, they can put on a piece of music and transform how they're feeling within a minute or two.
Yeah, it's amazing. I have my motivation music that, you know, I put on when I need that little bit of a lift.
Yeah.
You know, so it's very helpful. It's very helpful. It takes you out of that mood. Sometimes you just don't want to do it. I don't want to listen to that music. I don't feel like it. But if you put it on, it changes. It changes everything.
Do you know, that's so true. I've shared that many a time. We've got to get past how we feel sometimes. And I know that sounds like a weird thing to say because how we feel matters 100%, but it's not always right. And, you know, I've lived with anxiety now for, well, it must be 8 years because that's how old my little boy's about to be. And I still get those days where I'll wake up and I can feel it's there. And I absolutely know there are a bunch of things I can do that are going to help me feel better. I can journal, I can go out in nature, I can play with my kids, I can put music on, I can sing, I can go for a drive, whatever it may be. And I will say to myself, I don't feel like it. And it's about overcoming that and going, but what's the end goal that I desire? Do I desire to stay in this space, or do I desire to feel better? And it's not about pushing down emotions that need to be felt. sometimes I will acknowledge that I just want to feel sad for a moment, but then I will always give myself an end point to that. It's like, no, I do want to just sit in my bed and weep for a bit, but then I'm going to get out of my bed and then I will have a shower and I will go for a drive, or I will put that music on or whatever, I'll honor how I feel, and then I will honor what I choose. And they're not always the same thing.
I think that something that you just said really sparked with me, and that is, you have a feeling, but it's not always right. That hit me like, that's so true. It's not necessarily true if you're in that emotion. It just means that that's how you're reacting to a situation.
Yeah. I mentioned a little while ago that I bombed a couple of months ago. And now I can completely see why. There were very tangible reasons why. And I think this is the thing with mental health. We so often feel guilty for feeling that way. And we question, why do I feel like that? I've got no right to feel like that. But, in that moment, I couldn't see why I was feeling that way. And because of who I've become and what I do now, I felt even less worthy of having those emotions. It was like, how dare you be anxious again? You're supposed to be helping other people to not be anxious. How are you going to do that when you're this quivering mess in your own bed? Like, and again, I was kind of faced with this, well, who even are you then? It's not who you thought. And I started to convince myself that I'm not who I thought I was, and I don't have these abilities, and I'm not inspiring. And I even got to the point where I convinced myself that I'm actually just very mentally unwell, and that everyone around me knows I'm mentally unwell, and they just go along with this facade that I've got a nice podcast and whatnot because it makes me feel better. I convinced myself of that, and it broke my heart. And while I was sobbing in my bed, this little voice in my head said, what would be better than this? Like, does it feel good to believe that that's the truth?
Right.
If not,
yeah.
what would be better than that? And in the moment, I was angry with that voice for asking me that question, because I was like, well, it doesn't matter what would be better. This is what it is. But actually, it was enough, and it did start to spark ideas. And in the end, I was like, well, ultimately, none of us know, right? I could die and find out that everything I've spoken about my entire life was a load of old rubbish. And they might be like, Lily, you had it so wrong. What were you on about? But you know what? It helps me feel better for now. So I'm going to take that, And I chose to believe what I believe most of the time, that I do inspire people, that I can make them feel better, that I am here to make a difference, that my life is worth something, that I can help other people and myself, and that, all of those kind of demon thoughts, I'll call them, were not truth. They just felt like truth in the moment. But, ultimately, I think we've been given our emotions for a reason. And if something doesn't feel good, then you have another choice. There's another way to see something that's going to feel better. And that was essentially the question I asked myself, which I can only put down to the amount of self-development I've done over the years. Like, luckily, in my darkest moment, something cut through and was like, what would be better than this? So,
that's
powerful.
good. That's good. Yeah. And next time I feel like that, I will say, what would be better than this to myself? Because that's an interesting question that you try to answer. And like you said, you may just want to be in that moment and sulk and, not, and just lay in bed. And like you said, just give yourself a time to do that, and then say, okay, then I'm going to take a step further and work towards getting up, or like you said, going for a drive or walking in nature. I think that's so important to do.
Do you know what? I don't know if you've seen the film Frozen 2, but
Yes.
it's an amazing film. And this is what I mean about music. So most people will have just watched that film and gone, oh, that's a nice film, Frozen 2. I watched that film and I got so much from the music. I think people that have the ability to write songs are angels that walk the earth. They are giving us messages through the music. I feel so strongly about this. And there's a song in that film called The Next Right Thing. And Anna sings it. I won't give it away in case someone listening hasn't watched it, but she hits a very dark point in the film. And she starts to acknowledge that she's never felt darkness like it. She's like, I've seen, in fact, the first line is, I've seen dark before, but not like this. She's like, wow, this this is a new low. And the whole concept of the song is you've just got to take one step. That's all you have to do. It's just find the next right thing. You don't have to be overwhelmed with where you're going to end up or all of the things you need to do in this moment right now. It might just be to take another breath, right? You might just need to breathe in and out again, or stand up, or take a shower, or do your hair, or whatever it might be. And I watched the making of the film on Netflix, on Disney Plus, sorry. And it actually turned out that Kristen Bell, who plays the character, had a conversation with the songwriters about when she was in depression. And that was some advice that she was given by one of the people that was helping her. I think it was her therapist. And they said, you don't have to be overwhelmed, just find the next right thing. And the brilliant thing was, when I was having that moment and I asked myself that question, what would be better than this? And I kind of just rebelled against it and was like, what a stupid question. Like, I don't know what would be better. This is what it is. But, very, very quickly, I then got an image of me being lowered into a well, a very, very deep, dark well with a rope around my waist. And the image was a bit like, you're being lowered here to remember how awful it feels to be depressed, because these are the people that need you. And I think I do feel like sometimes, I get on a tangent and I forget how hard it is when you're struggling. And it felt like a message to say, this depression isn't yours and you're not going to stay here, but you had to come back to remember, to give yourself more fuel to move forward with your mission, to remember why you're here, to remember who you're here for, and to show up that way. And that vision hit me literally as I was still crying in my bed. And that was what made me go, it doesn't matter how sad I am, I believe in my mission. And I'd almost lost that belief, almost. And that vision just allowed me to go, no, I know who I am and I know why I'm here. And yes, today sucks, but I know that that's true. And I know that's what I choose to believe. And that was all I had to do. I didn't have to do anything else in that moment, but it was so powerful and it's propelled me forward since that point.
I think it's interesting. I think more people get those messages, but don't necessarily pay attention to them or don't really connect with their intuition. So it's not a message that they pick up on. But you hear so much, if you're able to kind of come in to that moment and listen to those things, it just sounds like they're thoughts sometimes, but they're not. They're truth that's coming, towards you.
Absolutely.
So I think everybody can do that. It's just a matter of kind of learning to separate yourself.
Absolutely. I think the most powerful thing you could say to anyone is to just offer them the perspective of, what if everything you're going through is for a purpose? Like, if you could believe that you were this powerful messenger with a powerful purpose, like if we absolutely knew that that's who we were, we wouldn't be fazed by anything that came our way, because we would already know. Like, my husband's been watching Star Trek in the evenings and it's not really my thing, but I kind of look at it, and they have missions. They get sent to these weird planets with these weird aliens, and they get challenged and blown up. And even the one last night, they kept being killed over and over again. It was some kind of Groundhog Day that kept happening. But they knew their mission, so it didn't matter. They were just like, mission first. Like, let's not get emotional about how we're being challenged. Let's just find another way around. If you know that that's your mission, it fuels you and it gives you strength far beyond anything that could take that away, And I think that's where I was blessed, because where I'd struggled before, and it was when I was disconnected with self, and I've actually made that connection very strong. So even when grief hit me, even when anxiety came back, and even when depression reared up for a minute, I still knew who I was, and that was enough to get me back on my feet and to honor how I felt. Like, I didn't feel better instantly. I didn't leap out of bed and start singing through meadows and whatever. But at the end of the day, what do you truly believe? What do you choose to believe is true for you? Like, do you choose to believe that your life is done and that your best years are behind you and that there's nothing to live for? Or does it feel better to believe that your best years are still to come and you are on your path and you're constantly guided, you're never on your own, and you could never get it wrong? Like, what feels better to believe? Because I know what I think. And that's
Right.
all I keep coming back to.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think we could talk about this for so much longer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
This is
hopefully
amazing.
you can hear how passionate I am about it. I absolutely know it's why I'm here. Like one of the In fact, I did an online business school in 2015 called B School. And one of the very early questions you're asked in that program is, what's the difference you want to make in the world? Because the whole concept behind B School is that you build a business that's heart-centered and passion-driven. And, you're not just building a business to make money, you're building a business to make the world a better place. And one of the questions is, what would you change in the world? And I realized that the thing that breaks my heart the most is when I hear that somebody has taken their life because they believed that they couldn't come back from something that happened to them, or that
Yes.
or that they'd lost something that was theirs and that they were never going to feel happy again, or they were never going to find their way back. Like, that breaks my heart. And it
Yeah.
breaks my heart more than it probably should, because it's not like I've had a lot of that in my life. It's not like I've lost a lot of people, thankfully, to that. But every time I hear it, it doesn't matter, even if it's someone I've never heard of. It's my soul screaming, because that's why I'm here. I'm here to let people know there is no way your best years are behind you. It's not possible. If you're still here, there's a purpose for that. There's a reason. And, it's helping people let go of what they thought their life was meant to be, and helping them to get onto whatever the path is going to be, to then allow something else to come forward. And it's not always easy, but I know that that's what I'm here to do.
That's amazing. So if people wanted to work with you, do you take on clients?
I do. At the moment, it's more group based, although I do have a one-to-one offering that comes through my mastermind. So I've tried to structure my business in levels so that people can work with me no matter where they're at financially or time wise. So I have my podcast, which is free, so people can just get on that and listen. And they'll hear me talk about this stuff all the time. In fact, to the point where I feel like I'm a bit boring now. But then at the same time, I always just believe that the message is what's needed. So, I'll continue to say it. So I have my podcast. I just launched a membership club, which is currently it's £20 a month, because I'm building it up. So the founding member rate is £20 a month, and it's called Evolution Online. And we basically use singing and music to raise people's vibration, to bring them joy. It's the most ridiculous fun. Like, it's not the place to take yourself seriously. It's an exact carbon copy of my in-person choir. I've just bought it online. So that's super affordable. I have a signature program called Find Your Voice, which you can do as a DIY course. And sometimes I run it as a live program as well. And then I have my On Purpose Mastermind, which is my highest level for people to work with me. And that's a 12-month commitment. And you can choose to come through in the group, or you can upgrade to a VIP, which gives you one-to-one coaching time with me as well.
Wow, that's great. I'm glad that you have all those different levels, because, like you said, the podcast, just tuning into that will give you exposure to you on many levels.
100%. There's been so many times where I have felt like I couldn't get the support I needed because I didn't have the money. I mentioned earlier that money has been one of my biggest struggles. It's another really big learning curve for me. So I didn't want to create a business that was going to cut people off just because they didn't have money to spend. And I'm passionate about that. And so, I just believe that people will be drawn to the level that's required for them, that's correct for them. I don't think it's any less powerful. Even the free podcast is super powerful. It's just what works for you. What do people need in that moment, and what level of support do they require?
Great. Well, it was amazing having you on. I would really like to get into the confidence and so many other things. Maybe we can have you on again, or we just direct people to your podcast, because you're going to have lots of information for that. So the podcast is the Confidence Academy. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, the Confidence Academy.
And then are you on social media at all?
I am. I'm on Facebook, and that's Lilli Badcock Confidence Coach. And I'm on Instagram, which is Lilli Badcock. And they're the main two at the moment. I'm trying to get better on Instagram. I feel like I'm not really down with the kids, but I'm doing better.
I know,
I've been doing
Instagram
some
is a learning curve.
Oh, I don't get
Yeah.
hashtags and reels and stories. My God, it's been a whole thing. But I hired someone to help me, and I'm a lot better at it now. So yeah, you can hit me up on either one of those.
Okay, great. And your name is spelled Lilli.
Yes.
Badcock, Badcock.
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure they're going to the right place. Well, thank you so much. It was really good having you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was brilliant. I loved it.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. If you like this podcast, you can receive our free gift, 5 5-minute meditations to kick off your meditation practice. You can receive them at angelevenger.com/meditations. Link is in the show notes. We would also love to have a review from you. We read each one, and it helps us with the show and makes us more visible. You can follow me on Instagram at Angel Evenger. And remember, you are the only one who can make your life great. Grab it by the horns and let's go. See you next week. Lots of love.